So why are people just now buying the Walther PDP? This is a great handgun for a lot of reasons, but before I get into that, we're actually gonna do a discount code on our HC PDP compensator at the end of the video, so don't miss that. Kicking it right off, this handgun has amazing grip texture and feels probably better than every striker fired gun I've ever held in my hand. It forms perfectly to my hand. It's incredibly comfortable. The grip texture is aggressive, but not too aggressive. A lot of companies do this really poorly, and I think Walther nailed it. So that's probably the best thing about this handgun. There's obviously a lot of other things. Gaining aftermarket support, we jumped on board, made a compensator for it. There's great mag walls, mag extensions, triggers, you name it. Everything's getting made for this handgun. The slide on the PDP is different than every other handgun slide I've seen. It's incredibly textured. There's these 3 big gashes in the slide. There's a lot of pros and cons to this slide. Cons we'll talk about in a little bit. But the pros are, if your hands are wet, bloody, dirty, whatever, you can grab and get a hold of this slide really easy. It's super aggressive. Not so much so like on the back here, it's gonna affect your skin if you're doing an appendix carry holster setup. Racking the slide, it's incredibly nice. Nicer than Glock, Smith & Wesson, who has those big, aggressive serrations on the front. I just really appreciate it. I like it a lot, and it looks really good. It's probably one of the things that kind of saves this pistol aesthetically, along with the grip texture. Walther opted to do an optic cut on this slide. You can actually, when you buy the handgun, you go on their site and you pick out what optic plate you need, and they'll send it to you free of charge, which is really cool. They're kind of saving some money on not giving you all of the plates like Glock does. But it's a better system than Glock, so I can understand these plates are thicker. You would have a lot of money invested in sending 20 different plates with a handgun. So I get it. It's a little inconvenient because you have to wait 2-3 weeks to get it. But on the slide, I have a Holosun 509T. It's a great optic. Probably one of my favorite closed emitter optics I've found. It's a little boxy and big, but it's really nice for both carry and competition. If you're gonna use this gun for competition, you might want to upgrade the trigger. I like it a lot, but the reset is kind of confusing. If you want to run a bill drill, it takes a lot more practice, for me at least, to run a bill drill efficiently with this. I notice I have a lot of trigger freeze just because the reset's really weird. It pushes your finger out of the way, but there's no tactileness to it. It's not bad, but it'll take a little more training. The mag release is pretty nice on this. It's a big round button. You can't miss it. It protrudes nicely. I don't have to break my grip to try to do the mag release. It ejects really nice. That probably is aided by the metal mags. With this model PDP, it comes with 18 round mags, which is cool. Your Glock 17 only comes with 17, and it feels like it's about the exact same size as the 17. So not sure how they squeeze another round in there, but this is a nice little setup. You know, it's kind of like the Glock 45. It's a shorter slide, but the longer frame. One of the biggest complaints I have about this is the recoil. Factory, they put a pretty heavy spring in here, and with the height over bore, this gun has a lot of snap to it. We obviously make a compensator for it, and it definitely helps, but it's still a relatively snappy gun. We also have a ZR tactical 13-pound recoil spring in here. That's gonna kind of help pull some of that recoil out because it's so oversprung. And now it shoots pretty good, but you can't fight physics. And with this, if you see, there is a lot amount of mass height-wise over my hand. This is a very tall slide. It's also a very thick slide, which is something I've mentioned earlier, is this is cool with these slide serrations, but you can tell they thicken the slide up a little bit. It's definitely gonna recoil more. It's just more mass moving back over your hand every time it shoots. So compensator was kind of a must on this. It was kind of uncomfortable to try to shoot fast. I had to really squeeze down on the gun to mitigate recoil. With a Glock, it just feels so easy, or if Smith & Wesson, P320. P320's even got a higher bore axis, but it was able to mitigate recoil easier on a stock gun than the Walther. So keep that in mind if you're not gonna throw a compensator on this, is it's going to be a snappier handgun, even with the good grip texture, the longer frame. It's something you're gonna be fighting every time you pull the trigger. So also the frame feels heavier. I'm not sure if this is a tungsten infused polymer, or why. I mean, obviously we got this big Holosun dot on here, a weapon light, comp, but this gun, I have the same setup for a Glock 45, and it is significantly heavier than virtually identical Glock 45. They call this a Preformance Duty pistol, PDP. I can see why. You know, if you were a cop, let's say, or military, it's nice to have these big serrations. It's nice to have this really good grip texture. It's a pretty good factory trigger. It's pretty light, but the reset sucks. You know, it's optic cut. But when I think about a performance pistol, I'm thinking something that can have low recoil, hold a lot of rounds, which this does, and have a low bore axis. If you have to use a handgun to save someone's life or your own life, you want low recoil, faster follow-up shots, ammo capacity, and a pretty good trigger, and obviously a good red dot. And this checks most of the boxes, but I just think they could have did a better job reducing some weight on the pistol as a whole. For it being such a heavy pistol, I'm kind of confused on why it's so snappy. And I can see why they would make a bold claim saying that this is a performance duty pistol. If I'm gonna pick a performance handgun, probably gonna be like a Glock 17 or a P320. It's probably not gonna be this gun, but I see why people are picking it up. You know, why did it take almost 2 years for this gun to get popular? And I think that comes down to aftermarket support. You know, people realize this is a snappy handgun, so compensators started coming out. Magwells, there's not a great built-in magwell in this gun. Something I haven't talked about with the cons. Reloads aren't too bad because it's a large full-size frame, but there's virtually no magwell on this. You know, holsters are pretty easy to find for this handgun, but there's still just a lot of little things that kind of are annoying that you can fix with aftermarket parts. You know, compensator for recoil, aftermarket trigger for the better reset, magwell for the reload. The only thing you can't fix is the weight. If it's in an OWB duty gun, it's not as critical because you're already kitted out with 25, 50 pounds of gear. 5 ounces aren't gonna make that big of a difference. But if this was a carry gun, I can run a fully fledged setup P320 for about the same weight, but I'm gonna say I'd pick the 320 over this if I was gonna conceal carry. One of the things I mentioned in our last video is, are you willing to be physically uncomfortable to be mentally comfortable? In that case, I still wouldn't choose this. You know, this is a heavier gun with a higher amount of recoil. I would rather pick the 365. It's the similar felt recoil, but a lot less weight. Even with an aluminum frame, I think it might still be less weight. I only really see this being a great like truck gun, duty gun, maybe a nightstand gun. You just gotta find the niche of this handgun. And it's aesthetically beautiful. Like this is a really cool Roland special space gun, if you will. So who is this handgun for? Walther PDP is the best feeling handgun on the market. The kind of person that would buy this cares more about comfort and ergonomics than they do about recoil. You can put a compensator on there, you can get training on grip, you know, that's gonna help a lot. Lucas Botkin's gonna shoot this a lot flatter than I shoot it, and he's got a lot more rounds in training. That's something to think about. Are you willing to train with this handgun to mitigate the recoil? And if you can get it shooting flat with a compensator and good grip and good recoil control, you know, maybe adding a heavier light on here like an X300, great. You have the best feeling handgun and you are good at mitigating recoil. This handgun would be perfect for you. So if you're looking to pick up a compensator to further reduce your recoil on your Walther PDP, check us out. Link down below. Go ahead and use the discount code PDPYT10. It'll save you 10% off at checkout. If you guys like this video, we'd appreciate a like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.